Nirasya sarva sandeham akikritya sudarshanam prakashita rahasyam tam bhajami gurumishwaram itam Shri Radhika Prananatha Pada Sarojayo Yena Premanubhutyasha Dattam Tam Shri Gurum Bhaje Shri Govinda Pararavinda Marupananya Vilashojitan Purna Prema Rasotsavo Jalamano Vritti Prasannananan Shajvad Krishna Katha Mahamrita Payora Shomura Kelato Bande Bhagavatam Iman Anulavam mṛduni patyakshito Namah Shri Guru Krishnaya Nirupadi Kripakrite Ya Shri Chaitanya Rupo Bhutanvan Prema Rasam Kalo Jayatam Surato Pangor Mama Mandamater Gati Matsarvasva Parambojo Radha Madana Mohano Adadana-strinam dantoir yacheham puna puna Srimad Rupa Parambojo Dhyudisyam Janma Janmani Abhirapali Patiputra Kanta Dasya Bilashati Balashvavara Sri Rupa Chintamala Sapti Sangsto Matsvanta Durdanta Haichurastam Raganugami Bhajanola Samanasanam Shiradhaya Sahasara Smaratam Vrajendhum Shri Rupa Parakamala Shrita Chetasame Chittam Satam Madhukari Yatupada Padme Bhakterya Nikilarta Varga Jananiya Brahma Sakshat Krite Anandat Dishaya Prada Vishaya Jat Sukyat Vimuktir Yaya Shri Radha Ramanam Padam Bhaja Yugam Yasya Maharashrayo Ya Karya Vraja-lokavat Gurutara Premnaiva Tasyai Namah Ya Ramya Nikilagha Sangha Shamani Shrutra Tritim Sangata Ya Svadhya Rasikai Sukabdi Janani Dhikarya Mukti Spriham Ya Dhyata Hridaye Vrajendra Tanuja Premamrita Syandini Sajiyad Hari Bhakta Vrinda Mohita Dhanyeha Padyavali judges in the world I knew on for offers at knees asked for about that Vidura when Krishna came as a matter to try to effect a compromise between Vidura. So in the verse which mentions the milk cows, so I'll pick up from there, and yeah. So, top of a new file. The verse under discussion next mentions the milk and yogurt of the cows of Braja. Vraja-gavāṁ dadhi-kṣīre. The milk and the yogurt made from the milk of the cows of Braja is a manifestation of the cow's prema for Sri Krishna, and thus is greatly dear to Sri Krishna. Sri Sukadeva Goswami Pad describes this repeatedly in Srimad Bhagavatam. For example, he indicates that the cows rush towards Sri Krishna when called by him, and then emit milk from their udders out of prema for him. So in the 10th canto we hear, Dhenavo mandagan minya udho bharina bhuyasa yayur bhagavata huta drutam pritya snuta stana. The cows, although generally slow-moving because of the heavy weight of their udders, upon being called by Krishna, or Bhagavan, went quickly out of affection, their udders trickling with milk as they went. Sri Chakravarti Pad comments in this regard that the cow's udders trickling milk as they rushed towards Sri Krishna is a sign of their love for him. The Braja Gopis also describe in the Venu Gita how the cows and calves of Braja, out of love for Krishna, become spellbound upon hearing the sound of Krishna's flute. Gavascha Krishnamukha nirgata Venu Gita piyusham utabhita karna putai pibantya shavas nutastana paya kavalas matastur Govinda matmani drishas shukalas prishantyaha. The cows, drinking in the nectar of the flute song emanating from Krishna's mouth with the cups of their uplifted ears, and the calves, in whose mouths mouthfuls of milk from the udders of their mothers flowed, but were not being swallowed, stood still, meaning became spellbound, embracing Govinda in their minds through their eyes and shedding tears. So this is an image. In other words, the cows hear the sound of the flute, and then their ears are pricked. They stop to listen, and milk is flowing from their udders unconsciously. And the calves who are drinking that milk are spellbound looking at Krishna. They're shedding tears and the milk is just pouring through. They've completely lost awareness of that milk as they behold Krishna. So the gopis cherish very much to see how all the various living beings with whom they share the beautiful environment of Braj are so captivated by Krishna's flute song, by Krishna's beauty, his Venu Madhurya, Rupa Madhurya, and so forth. So, during the Brahma Vimohana Lila, Bhagavan Sri Krishna also assumes for a year a set of forms identical to those of all the elder calves and cowherd boys that Brahmadev hid in a cave in an attempt to bewilder him. Thus, during this year, every cow in Braja had the privilege of personally nursing and nurturing Sri Krishna in the form of her own elder calf. So here in our verse, it's mentioning how Krishna took great pleasure in the milk and the yogurt from the cows of Braj. So that can mean that he took great pleasure in the milk and yogurt offered to him by Mother Yashoda or others. But in this case, or what we're also trying to draw out here, is that it also means that he assumed the form of calves just to be able to drink that milk directly from the udders of all of these cows. When Brahmadev finally realizes this, he becomes astonished and praises Sri Krishna as follows. He says, Ahuti dhanya vraja-gavāṁ ramanya stanyamritam pitamati bate muda yasam vibho vatsarantaratmajatmana yat triptai dyapyata nalam madhvara. Aho, O Vibhu! Exceedingly fortunate are the cows and the ladies of Braja, the nectar of whose breast milk was drunk profusely with delight, in the form of their elder calves and sons by you, for the satisfaction of whom still today sacrifices are not sufficient. So we'll look at some commentary on this delightful statement. So again, Brahma is saying this in the midst of his stupa. This is just after one of his famous verses saying, without the grace of Krishna, one could go on searching forever and never find the ultimate highest good. So then he begins to marvel at the beauty of Krishna's Leela and Braja, and this is one of the principal ways that he does so. So Sri Sanatana Pad comments in this regard that Brahmadev addresses Sri Krishna as Vibhu. So Vibhu can mean almighty or omnipresent or evoke a sense of Aishwarya in general. To acknowledge that Sri Krishna is fully complete in all respects in and of himself, and that it is thus wondrous that despite Sri Krishna's being so, he still drinks the milk of Braja's cows. Moreover, does so profusely, moreover, does so with delight, and moreover, does so personally in the form of one of their elder calves. So if you were the omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent being, would you bother taking the form of a cow just to drink out of of a calf just to drink out of some cow's udder? This is not what typically you might expect from a being who enjoys all possible facility. But when Krishna is ultimately prema-vashya, captivated by prema and a relisher of prema above all, then just to relish the prema of these cows, he takes the form of their calf to drink their milk, because as we began with the point that the milk is like an expression of liquid prem. So now we get an interesting statement which contrasts the satisfaction Krishna feels from bhakti and the satisfaction Krishna finds in Brajabhav with the worship that he receives by those who follow the rituals described in the Vedas. So commenting on Brahmadev's statement, quote, you for the satisfaction of whom still today's sacrifices are not sufficient, Sri Jivapad explains that Brahmadev, who is the original guru of all the sages who propagate the Vedas, marvels at how all the yajnas enjoined in the Vedas, which have been conducted with elaborate procedural sophistication, precise pronunciation of mantras, high standards of purity, and so forth, since beginningless time, have not been able to satisfy Sri Bhagavan, even though he partakes of the nectar produced by them, and is considered to subsist on the offerings he receives in them, because of his being fully complete in and of himself. And yet, as such, Sri Bhagavan here drinks profusely the milk of Braja's cows, in the form of their elder calves, with immense delight that he never felt even from all those yajnas. What sort of nectar is this milk of Braja's cows? So, for the Brahminical culture, which since time immemorial has been engaged in preserving and propagating the sophisticated manner of sacrifice conducted in these type of yajnas, to hear that these are never as satisfying to Krishna as the milk of Braja's cows is, that all the amrita that can come out from any type of Vedic yajna pales in comparison to the amrita of the milk of Braja. This is really an extraordinary statement, and for it to come from none other than Brahma, he who is the original guru of the whole Vedic process, of all the rishis who present the mantras and the various yajnas described in the Veda, then this is really quite a, I won't say groundbreaking, but really a reorienting sort of remark. So what sort of nectar is this milk of Braja's cows? Sri Krishna assumes crores of calf forms out of intense desire to relish this special rasa, the milk of Braja's cows. So people spend millions or billions of dollars to feel a particular type of pleasure in this world. So Krishna is donning millions of calf forms in order to drink this milk. So to convey his intense desire for it. Sri Chakravartipad further comments that Brahmadev feels it is inappropriate for him even to pray for the position of having rati constituted of such pure nurturing affection, or vatsalya for Krishna, as is found among the cows and ladies of Braja. And thus he utters the particle aho at the beginning of the aforecited verse, to convey that the great fortune of the cows and ladies of Braja is beyond the scope of his speech and mind, by virtue of its being profoundly astonishing. So, when Brahma thinks about how Krishna feels far greater relish in the breast milk and the udder milk of the cows and the ladies of Braja, he feels completely humbled. He thinks, I have no sort of devotion or rati that even compares to the rati that these cows and ladies have, and even for me to pray for it would be audacious. It's simply astonishing. So he just says, "Aho," something like in English we might say, "Wow," or "Oh my," or something like this. So moreover, although Sri Krishna is the very embodiment of bliss, the milk of Braja's cows is a cause of bliss even for him. And out of intense desire for that bliss, he feels he cannot relinquish the chance to drink the milk from every single udder of every single cow in Braja, and thus adopts, I think that's a typo, thus adopts all these forms as their elder calves to relish it. So he doesn't want to leave one chance unrealized. He doesn't want to leave one drop of milk undrunk. This is how much eagerness he has, how greatly he relishes this. So some very nice comments from our acharyas on this verse of the Bhagavatam. Sri Shukadev Goswami Pad also describes the immense affection the cows of Braja show to Sri Krishna while he is manifest in the form of their elder calves, as follows. The cows, I'll just read the translation on this one. The cows grazing on grass at the top of Govardhan Hill from afar saw the elder calves grazing near the cow pens. Becoming captivated by affection for them, and forgetful of themselves after seeing them, that herd of cows, their tails raised, their necks raised up to their humps, and appearing like two-legged creatures, quickly went down the hill towards their calves with moos and streams of milk flowing from their udders, overrunning their own keepers and taking up a difficult path. So if you've ever seen a cow run fast, and run fast on not just a pasture, but some kind of intricate or complicated mountainous territory, it's really quite something. In other words, how agile they're able to move can be quite surprising. So this describing them as being as if they were two-legged or their necks touching their humps means that they're standing up, they're leaping, they're then landing like this, where their neck is bending up, and then again they're going forward, and they're, agilely navigating this steep and difficult terrain with complete abandon, with complete disregard for their keepers, and, are running down the hill. And even their younger calves that are with them, they're even ignoring them to go and run after the elder calves, which is contrary to natural little that you have. The elder calves are on the other calves override the effort and effect comes to it. Form ever since the cow gives by the farm. After the cow sweat, these calves were the utterance of cow swat. The licking is also nurturing either like the following eager and arriving hard me set becoming their substitute out of the paint cover the curse. And I forget there's a saying or there's like I would have mount of thing someone to amend their actions of dunking pick and Jiva pod from the middle there is how often goes each is live pod the just in his oh just a sec. Okay, I think it'll pop up. Alright, oh, not quite. Well, I'll just, sorry, it's not loading clearly. I'll just read the translation. The verses are there in the footnotes. So, upon smelling an increasing waft of his fragrance in the wind, the cows here also quickly came over and met him in herds there, where the rumbling sound jhari mixed with the sounds of their bells, and the striking of their hooves combined with their mooing pervaded the vicinity of the hundreds of cowherd boys spread out around Krishna. So Krishna is sitting in the midst of the cowherd boys and his fragrance is wafting in the air, and when the cow and there's their rose on his body, there was their sense of tackle or affection, symptoms of their doing their bidden. These cows, Sari's body is in his sin also satisfied when the lesson occurred, and he feels the hunger. He said like feel hungry he's free. With joy with them. So Prawn is in body outside body, because the ear and prawns he's so tuned with how he'll he has this Suki power that often wonders the purivans and borrows this via he repeatedly fetches expressions sling and holds them to heart, raises avidly into them, feeds them, all with own shines back them. Hurry saying cows he can from, and that him become voice, and oceans like pigs, so here like you the forest around things, their motions like little breezes and goka, hurry the peace from their head. And with them they come to life and they're joyfully leaving all the fashion and they lose sight of him. Help. Hello, tower, like a beast, waiting as if for the life of their body fits to be whole again. So, but after them on his position on their part. Receiving worship, being negated fear, being out harming brains, obtaining food, and being united with habit, variated life. But only these truly feel when they come in light to see Krishna. So how do you please worship God, you give Christ, you go and spend time with the and all these and will prepare their or simply saying and all the additional pleasure fulfillment is done how great the with Krishna. So that's like their ultimate object of some mass. So use an analogy. They come like some aired they feel really the sin from ferments, mid-nineteenth no health field in the English medicine. In the world, if they die for food or disease, very good. Don't real run the that's why upset when they are for the please go and to so all the not those that are of these citations from the sure the paso. And sorry about the Mr. This person is medibly fission fact is manufacturing sulfur and nothing from the pocket in for animal for others. The wisdom resurrective human is like that in highly cat reliable. So thus, no verse under saying, as you are in the milk and the yogurt of the cows, the mission gets a great measure. So that's we have on the so now offering the verse and this one from the mention verse of the so the end of this one could longer, so cover a little bit of day breath in the class. So for discussion, the palmful rise friend the friend spoken of is the brāhmaṇa. Sri handed Urukul honeymoon in the later for my hand right. Hippocrates says the name of the brāhmaṇa is not Sanatana and Sri Rupa all state this and then Sri the Pandra Sri Vidura attacks to Riha from Sridam be the Brahman. She also notes, however, writers interpret his name Sama. In here she writes diverse, with big Brahman who named Sama. Rupa himself another describes his Mana lady. Thus, for being with an unearthed Punjabi, named Sama you think some of the country man, but this Brahman of Anglican right Sri Krishna. So I from Sama or Q and Shama. However, most commentators speak Brahmana as what the aliens are made using the Sudama some Sri is not here. After being Shri Krishna to Mathura, when highly convincing and greatly detached object sense of Kuman and virtue of defecti and the Bhavan. The life of a sister city, upon which he by way of digging. Adam he is very few as some as she seated. I wish her husband of such harp and how means to him redemption. This is Christopher of Lakshmi something pain of always in dividing terms of the need. He will suddenly give to animals well on the Sudam did. Sudam reflects each on by it, and then having to fish is integrated one. Thus sides goes to treat water and asks if it was a beforehand interest. Is an old and sin of Buddhas. Hence, she catches the events. Krishna rides her head was it. Urge enjoy braces on the shedding tears from his eyes. Three great persons of all this literature faculty, Joan Twitting best, washes to meet. We win. Just we win. Okay. That's somewhat past. I don't know if that wind comes in on the sound or not. Sorry, I'll just let a few more gusts go by. Okay. So, Sudama enters, Krishna embraces him, shedding tears. Sri Krishna then proceeds to offer all the hospitality shown to a guest. He washes Sudama's feet, sprinkles some of the water used in that offering, which would mean even if the bhakta doesn't have prema, even if the bhakta is not so super of a bhakta, so to speak, because Krishna loves his bhakta so much, he appreciates that offering. Then it says, one who with bhakti, that is with prema, thus excellently offers me a leaf, flower, fruit, or water, I indeed personally partake. That is, I accept that leaf or otherwise. Why? It was offered out of bhakti. Why is that? It was offered with bhakti. And it came from one of completely pure psyche. That is, from one of pure heart. So why does Krishna relish this thing? Because it's offered to him with bhakti. And it's offered with bhakti because the person has a pure heart. And as we discussed previously, that pure-heartedness there meant no desire for other things. So simply that one-pointedness upon Krishna by virtue of desire, that makes everything that one does most endearing to Krishna. So focus yourself on Krishna, desire Krishna, and you become so desirable to Krishna. And when you're desirable to Krishna, then what you offer and your very self are sure to please him, sure to be accepted by him. So want and have. Alternately, the sense is that I partake of that which has been accepted by me specifically out of bhakti for my bhakta. So then again he takes the sense in both ways, that it can also be that because Bhagavan has so much bhakti for his bhaktas, then he feels compelled to accept whatever they offer him out of bhakti. They've offered this to me with bhakti, so I'll also accept it with bhakti. You can read the verse like that. So this is how Sanatana Gosvami draws meaning out of this apparent redundancy in the verse. Sri Sanatana Pad also explains that Sri Krishna eats even leaves and flowers offered to him by bhaktas, even though these are generally not considered edible, because the nectar of bhakti becomes infused into them and thus makes them relishable to him when a bhakta offers them to him with bhakti. So ashnami, the conventional standard meaning of the verbal root for that verb is to consume or to eat. So if he's saying that he does that in regard to a flower, then does he literally mean that he eats flowers? As far as Sanatana Goswami is concerned, sure, why not? If there's prem in that flower, if there's bhakti in that flower, then Krishna will even eat the flower. Sri Chakravarti Pad elaborates on Sri Krishna's attitude in this regard in his commentary on this verse. So now this is Chakravarti Pad's 10th canto comments on the verse. Quote, an item itself may be palatable or unpalatable, but that which is offered by my bhakta verily with bhakti out of the thought, this is palatable, shall it become indeed highly palatable to me. So it might be great, it might not be great, but if the bhakta thinks it's great and gives it to Krishna thinking you're going to like it, then Krishna will actually like it. Not because of what it's actually made of, but because of that loving gesture of the bhakta. Thus, I partake of the offering my bhakta makes, whatever it may be. And thus, being bewildered by my bhakta's prem, I partake even of a flower, even though it is normally meant to be smelled and not meant to be partaken, that is, eaten. So my bhaktas, they get to me, you know? It's so endearing the way they offer things to me, I just want to take them. And even if it's not usually something you eat, I forget, I don't even remember. I get bewildered by that love. So this is how Chakravarti Pad takes it. Jiva Gosvami, however, takes it a little differently. Sri Jiva Pad also accepts that Sri Krishna may literally eat leaves and flowers, as aforesaid, but alternately says that the meaning can also be taken that Sri Krishna accepts and enjoys these as though he is eating them, even though he does not literally do so. Sri Jiva Pad further comments that even a small offerings becoming, quote, great to Sri Krishna means that he becomes greatly satisfied for a long time, even by a small offering made with prema by his bhakta. So Jiva Gosvami comments, I myself certainly partake, that is, accept such an offering. Why? It was, quote, offered out of bhakti, bhakti paritam. Thus there, meaning those bhaktas' act of offering itself is the cause in regard to my partaking of it, and not rather even a mantra and so on. Now this is interesting. Pay attention if you find, some fine principle here regarded to the process of archan, puja, etc. Jiva Goswami is saying that bhakta's act of offering itself is the cause in regard to my partaking of it, and not rather even a mantra and so on. That is, I partake of an offering because that act of offering is an expression of bhakti with prema. It is not that anything else, such as the mantra with which the offering is made, or the exact content in the offering, be it exceptional or unexceptional, extensive or minimal, shall be the cause of my accepting the offering. So whether the food is really super tasty or not super tasty, or super expensive or not super expensive, and even whether or not one uses this mantra or that mantra, none of that really bears on what is pleasing to Krishna about the offering. Rather, simply that it is offered out of bhakti. The bhakti is really what pleases Krishna, not the mantra and not the content. This is the purport. The repeated mention of bhakti in the verse. So again, the commentators are trying to deal with this apparent redundancy in the verse. This is how Jiva Goswami takes it. The repeated mention of bhakti conveys his ardent desire for the bhakti he receives from his bhaktas. So in other words, he takes it that the bhakti can refer both times to the bhakta's bhakti, and that the reason Krishna mentions it twice is that that's what it's all about. So he's repeating himself. When an offering is made with bhakti, then that offering anything offered out of bhakti, I take. So by saying bhakti twice, he's putting stress that it's really the fact that it's being offered with bhakti is that what really causes me to take it or to appreciate it. The cause in regard to there being an offering made out of bhakti is indicated by the mention of, quote, from one of pure heart, desire to serve Bhagavan. So again, how is it then that one offers something out of bhakti? One offers it out of bhakti because one has a purified heart. In other words, bhakti is only expressed to the extent that the heart is pure, and the heart is pure to the extent that one is desirous of Krishna, desirous of pleasing Krishna, desirous of serving Krishna. So the whole essence of all of this is to desire Krishna, desire bhakti, desire to please Krishna. And as far as that desire becomes prominent and paramount in the heart, to that extent, anything that one offers, whatever act that one does, motivated by that desire, will be greatly endearing and satisfying to Krishna. So, in that way, we need not bother ourselves with great elaboration of external form or of intricate ritual or all of these kind of things. We'll really do best to focus on purifying the heart as far as possible, which is to say, deepening our desire for Krishna as far as possible, and seeking to be absolved of all other desires. So the essence then of all the sadhana practice is to nourish desire for Krishna and to let go of desire for other objects. In regard to the point made here by Sri Jivapad, that it is not the mantra or any other feature of a ritual procedure that may be employed in making an offering, that is the cause of Sri Bhagavan's accepting the offering. A verse cited by Sriman Mahaprabhu in a conversation with his guru Sri Ishvara Puripad is also noteworthy. So there's a well-known statement in this regard. An uneducated person says Vishnaya. That is, improperly inflects the name of Vishnu when pronouncing a mantra used for making an offering to Bhagavan Vishnu, while a learned person says Vishnave. That is, properly inflects the name of Vishnu when pronouncing a mantra used for making an offering to Bhagavan Vishnu. But their merit is the same. That is, the relative accuracy with which someone pronounces a mantra used for making an offering to Sri Bhagavan does not create any significant difference in the meritoriousness of the offering. Why not? Janardan, namely Bhagavan, is a grasper of bhav. Bhav grahi Janardana. This is the famous statement, the intention and devotion with which the offerings are made. In other words, Janardana, Bhagavan, Krishna relishes, he grasps the bhav, not the mantra, not the pronunciation, not the content of the offering, all of this. He relishes bhav fundamentally. And here bhav, as Jiva Gosvami said it, we quote so many times, Tadeka sprihatam eva mukhya lakshanam. The principal characteristic of bhava bhakti, which we can say from the Rupanuga perspective is the essence of this bhav that Janardana grasps, is desirousness solely of him. So Sudama, he's made this offering, or rather he's thinking of making this offering, and Krishna is trying to entice him to bring it out because Sudama has such a pure heart, has no desire for anything other than serving Bhagavan. So in this case, his desire to please Bhagavan is manifesting in the form of reluctance to make the offering rather than in the act of offering, because he's thinking, how can I please Krishna? And he's thinking this won't actually please him, but nevertheless Krishna will actually be pleased. So Krishna is going so far as to coax his bhakta into making this offering for him. So when someone really has a pure heart, what to speak of even making an offering to Krishna, even if you have nothing to offer and you're too shy to offer it, Krishna will come and by force take it from you. That's how much he'll want what you have and relish what you have. In other words, that's how much he values that pureness of heart and that bhakti that's present in that heart. So I'll stop here for today. and we'll hear more about how this wonderful Leela of Sudama visiting Dwaraka plays out, and what further pleasure Krishna felt in this offering of this broken rice in our next reading, to further color our understanding of the verse under discussion, wherein is prayed that as Krishna took pleasure in the food offered by Sudama, so also may he take pleasure in what is offered by me. In other words, so also may I have that bhakti whereby he becomes so satisfied. So I stop here for today. If anyone has any comments, questions, corrections, or feedback of any other type, please feel free to share. Oh, it looks like the line dropped somewhere along the way. Oh dear, I didn't notice that. Okay, well, I'll stop here for today, and the recording will be available. Vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Jai Shri Guru, Jai Shri Gaur, Jai Jai Radhe Shyam.